In this video, we're going to take a look at a red ink by Diamine, a part of their 150th Anniversary Carnival. Now, down in the description are timestamps so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description are links to the red ink playlist, so if you'd like to see more red inks, you can check that out there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen. We do get some very good shading in the extra fine. Now it's a lot lighter than the stub. The medium's darker than the extra fine and lighter than the stub. But look at this shading we're getting in the extra fine. We even get some of this great shading going on in the medium. Not so much in the stub that's just super dark. Extra fine took 11 seconds to dry and the medium took 16 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both give us a little color variation, but it's much better in the writing, and the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Platinum 3776 with a soft fine nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, but we are getting some minor ghosting there. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen. We're getting no shading in the stub, but it's definitely showing its face in the extra fine. Just look at that. And it shows up even in the medium. My goodness, this ink demands to shade. The extra fine took 18 seconds to dry and the medium took 24. The scrubby for both are giving us no color variation, but it lies because it is fantastic in the writing. The smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And this is a true prime red. There's no mixing of colors to get this and all of its great performance, which is becoming confusing to me because normally it takes more than one color to shade really well, and that's not the case with this one. We do see it bonding just a little bit at the paper, but the rest of it moving and gathering at the top. The one on the right that's let dry for 10 minutes, we do see the line at the bottom is quite a bit darker, but all of it moving up is quite a bit darker. It's bonding as it's moving, showing we could expect some decent resistance here, I think. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade for the stub. But the extra fine gets very nice shading. Just look at it all the way across. Now the medium's not shading nearly as well as it has in the past. The extra fine took 13 seconds to dry and the medium took 17. The scrubby for both aren't showing very much for color variation, but just look at that in the extra fine. I did the 13. The smear test, I lost my place. It's just that good in ink. The smear test says you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I would not use this in a note-taking situation because that's gross. Water surprisingly moved a whole lot more of this ink than I was expecting. We're really seeing the white of the paper come through. Pen flush is doing just a little bit more than water did in the same 30 seconds, but it did only take water to get this out of the pen. Now the 1/3 bleach solution, as we would expect, completely obliterates it. The next writing sample is done on original Crown Mill paper. No bleeding and no ghosting. We get no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. The stub is showing shading for the first time. The extra fine is showing very nice shading as it always has. And the medium, none. No shading for the medium. The extra fine took 6 seconds to dry while the medium took 10. The scrubby for both give us no color variation, but it's lying about that extra fine. And the smear test, you probably could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity is 2.5, and the realm of normal is 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine's Carnival has a viscosity of 1.48, so it's a pretty darn wet ink. If you're interested in how the viscosity test and all that's done, then down in the description is a link to that video. The next writing sample is done on black and red notebook paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. It's a bit more absorbent paper though. It still does very nice. The extra fine is lighter than the stub, and the medium's the same tone as the stub. The extra fine took 8 seconds to dry, while the medium took 11 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both give us no color variation. It would help if I put it onto camera. We didn't get it in the writing. In the smear test, there is a slim chance that you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Diamine's Carnival has an average dry time of 17 seconds, so it's not just normal, but average. The last writing sample is done on limon paper. Not known to be fountain pen friendly, it naturally has a bunch of spots that do bleed very heavy into the paper. Now, none of these spots that I'm circling came through and touched the back or the next page, but they probably stop you from using the back of the page. They definitely stop me. Despite all of that, we have no feathering. We do have a little bit of spread on the stub. We do have a little spread on the medium. I think even a tiny bit on the extra fine. We have no halo, no sheen, no shade, but the extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub, and the medium's the same tone as the stub. The extra fine took 6 seconds to dry, while the medium took 9 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both give us no color variation because we get none in the writing here. In the smear test, you could definitely recover if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine's Carnival, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a turquoise ink by Diamine called Teal, just because I actually grouped those together as teal and turquoise. If you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those different color playlists. So what do I think of Diamine's 150th Anniversary Carnival? If you want a good shading red, then we have a winner. Step right up and get your Cupid doll. It is nice and bright and stops well short of being obnoxious. I can see using this as my red when I need it. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? Really, a medium flow medium or fine, especially that fine, is going to look fantastic. It's going to have great shading. Now, even a drier fine, like when I was taking the notes with the 3776, that shaded fantastic. So even your very dry fines and extra fines are going to look spectacular. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Platinum Black.